Hello and welcome to another episode of Multifamily Elevated. I'm your host, Suzanne Hopson. And today's guest is one that has been in our industry for a long time and has made an indelible mark on how we operate. I am really pleased to have Donald Davidoff as a guest today on Multifamily Elevated. And just a little bit about him if you don't know him already. He is CEO and co-founder of Real Estate Business Analytics, or REBA, the leading analytics platform for rental housing, specializing in business intelligence, budgeting, and pricing revenue management. A seasoned industry consultant, Donald has deep expertise in pricing and revenue management, marketing analytics, and business process optimization. He previously held executive roles at Holiday Retirement and Archstone, leading strategic initiatives in PRM, e-commerce, and marketing. Donald was also instrumental in designing and implementing LRO, lease rent options, the multifamily industry's first revenue management pricing system. He also led the rollout of SmartPath, an innovative workflow automation tool at Archstone. Earlier in his career, he worked on pricing solutions for major brands like Harrah's, UPS, and Dollar Rent-A-Car. A former U.S. Air Force officer, he is also a published author of Contact, Customer Service in the Hospitality and Tourism Industry, and Parenting the Office.
Hello and welcome to Multifamily Elevated. My name's Suzanne Hopson, and I am super excited to talk to you about vision, people, and execution, and how you can utilize this information to elevate you and your team and your experience in multifamily. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, giving you the latest and greatest news and content across our multifamily sector. So let's jump in. Enjoy this episode of Multifamily Elevated and enjoy the climb.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Multifamily Elevated. And today we have another very special guest. I'm really, really excited to have Donald Davidoff here. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yes. We get to dive into one of my favorite topics. As you know, here to Elevate, we talk a lot about business operating systems, and data is a very important part of a successful business. And I know that with what you do with the real estate business analytics, this is your game, and you've been in it for quite some time. Started the company in 2015. You're a co-founder, is that correct?
2019. This company, 2019. Yeah.
2019. Okay. All right. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you have been focusing on as of late? Like, what's the latest thing that you have been working on in your business?
Yeah, we're on a mission to change how the industry uses data. And it was about, I want to say almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we commissioned a study from Don Beveridge, an industry consultant. You may be aware of him, good friend. We were trying to bring business intelligence to life, right? Because one of the things that I've observed in my career is if I talk to a COO or a CEO who's never had good BI, they know what it feels to write the check to buy it, but it feels amorphous. Like what's the real benefit? Okay, better decisions faster. What does that really mean, right? So you got this tangible check against this seemingly intangible benefit. Yet every time in my consulting career that I was working with a COO or CEO who had good BI, changed companies that didn't have BI, it was their number one or number two priority because they just felt like they were flying blind. So we challenged Dom, like, how do we bring this to life? And so his idea was to interview a bunch of our customers and talk with them about the value that we're getting, right? Basically storytelling, right? Narratives, bringing that to life. What came out of that, though, was something unexpected, where he said, I've been reviewing all these, and the thing that blows my mind is there's this sense of connection, right? Connecting disparate systems of record into a single source of truth. More important than that, connecting people, connecting departments that don't even normally work together. So this notion of connecting or breaking down silos, it led Tim McInerney and me, Tim's our chief revenue officer, to really coin this new term. We're not just a data analytics platform, we're a connected analytics platform. And so candidly, we're trying to teach the industry what it means to have connected analytics and a platform that you can operate from in multiple different ways. So that's our real focus for 2025 is getting this message across of connected analytics.
Love that term, connected analytics. It does really, well, it connects everything together. And I think that has been, as an operator in my past, the necessity to be able to have transparency and be able to look deep into the business without having to look deep into the business. You're right. Once you've had a taste of it,
Yeah.
you want more of it. You need it. It becomes something that you're really dependent on to run your operation successfly.
Yeah. Well, if I can just say one more thing about that, because I love what you're saying there. One of the things that really hit us again is, I'm a technologist. I have an engineering degree. I can be a bit wonky. So like the connecting of the data was always pretty obvious and intuitive to me. What blew me away is you and I both know how much this is a people business. And the thing that really struck Dom and then struck us as we looked at the results of that study were the way we were connecting people, right? It's not just the tech platform, but because of the tech platform, we were actually connecting people and connecting departments. And that was like, whoa, that's connection on a whole different level.
Totally. And, it takes it to the next level, quite frankly. And the need for that connection, especially coming out of COVID and heading into, even a more siloed way of operating, I can just imagine the challenges there, which is really, my next question. When multifamily companies really rely on multiple disconnected systems, I know I consult with clients all the time who have stack techs that are taller than I am.
Yeah.
What are the biggest challenges that you're finding with that complexity?
Data should flow like water, and it obviously doesn't. There are dams and there are, toll booths that we have to go through and all sorts of things that really make it hard. To me, the single biggest challenge is the way analysts spend 80+% of their time collating data rather than analyzing it, right? You download 3 different reports from your property management system and one from some other system you're using. And then you have to copy and paste in Excel and, get them all to connect. And, inevitably 4 reports have 5 different occupancy numbers. As I said, the analysts are spending so much time just collating the data that they can't move at the speed of curiosity. And so a lot of questions don't even get asked because people just think they can't answer them. I mentioned earlier, we're on a mission to change how the industry uses data. Our half joke internal mission statement is we're on a mission to get rid of VLOOKUPs and index match statements, because that's how analysts connect this data inside Excel in a highly, highly manual way. So yeah, the biggest challenge is just the roadblocks and the taxes that are put in front of analysts and operators. And if we can bring those barriers down, that's how you make better decisions faster.
Yeah, and you just said something that I think is key and what I hear all the time, and that's speed. The necessity for speed, especially, well, it's increasing every day. And, we're constantly trying to find new ways of optimizing that. And so, those inefficiencies, and operators are really digging in now to look for even the slightest room to be able to make an improvement on those inefficiencies and obviously increase speed. Speed's money. But what's from those siloed systems that we were talking about and the impact that it has for different stakeholders, whether it's revenue managers, site teams or executives. And I know you talked about the analysts. How does it really affect the other areas of the business when they're disconnected?
Well, a couple things happen on a deeply personal level. People feel that disconnection. And so, there's not a single way of doing business, a single way of thinking about things. And so you get, with siloed behaviors, one market acts very different than another, or maybe the service team ends up with a culture very different than the leasing team. And this kind of stuff, has real world impact on residents, on investors, on the associates themselves, right? One of my favorite sayings is there's no fighting in a winning locker room. And so if you can get everybody on the same page, rowing in the same direction, I feel like I'm suddenly turning this into a cliche fest. But, if you can do that, like people feel good when they can feel proud. And, even if there's good reasons for those disconnections, it doesn't make people feel proud. They don't feel like they're part of a tribe that's succeeding. So, that's on a personal level. On a business performance level, bad decisions get made. I mean, I forget the name of the guy, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but there was this wonderful quote out there from the CEO of some large company who was like something to the effect of, we should make decisions based on data, but if we're going to make decisions based on opinions, then we might as well make them based on my opinion because I'm the CEO, right? And okay, yeah, I mean, if you really don't have the data or you can't access it or you can't process it, yeah, I mean, if we're going to have to make decisions based on opinion, might as well be the highest ranking, guy or woman in the room. But it's 2025. We shouldn't have to, rely as much on intuition. We should use intuition to create hypotheses and then use data to test those hypotheses. And we should be just as happy, even happier. I mean, I'm happier when data proves me wrong, right? When data proves me right, okay, I feel good and I'm confident, but hey, guess what? I already knew that. When data proves me wrong, like, wow, I just learned something. I just avoided a bad decision, etc. So, to me, there's both deeply personal and very profound, business impacts from not making data-driven decisions or not being able to.
You just hit it, the key about, being wrong and the space that creates to learn and to get better. One of the things that I was researching about you and about your product was just the fact that it's really helped a lot of companies already, even though you've just recently been doing this. Do you have an example that you could share with us of maybe a company you went into and you were able to implement your tool and it really made a profound impact?
Yeah, one of my favorites actually, because let's go back to the whole concept of connected analytics and connecting departments and people who don't usually interact. So one of the interviews, one of the videos, it's up on our YouTube channel somewhere, was with the corporate VP of maintenance at Brookfield. And he was looking at the Make Ready dashboards and looking at some of the operational performance dashboards. And it suddenly hit him how impactful Make Ready days were to the pricing and revenue management team. Now think about that for a moment, right? The VP of maintenance is suddenly thinking about how his on-site maintenance folks are affecting the pricing and revenue management team. And so they partnered together to create a better understanding of the impact of improving Make Ready days. And then they put together a program to implement improvements. And I forget the exact number, but they did something like, cut from an average of 14 or 15 days to, down to 8 or 9. And don't quote me on the exact number, but the relative numbers, pretty accurate. And, on a 40,000 unit portfolio, that's a profound difference in operational performance. You look at the housing crisis, that's a profound increase in occupancy. So we're actually serving customers better by having more of them in our homes. And it all came around because the visualization hit somebody right between the eyes in a way they just wouldn't have otherwise realized. And it motivated them to reach out and talk to a partner, collaborate with a part of the company they never, ever would have otherwise done. And frankly, would surprise most people that communication was happening. I mean, there's, a dozen other examples out there or more with all of our customers. But that one, I keep telling that story because as a former head of pricing revenue management, like the thought of the VP of maintenance reaching out to me, wow, that's just, that's powerful.
Yeah, it's connected analytics right there and everything you were just talking about. And you were talking about, just the cost on that size of a portfolio and the cost savings. It also speaks to how it affects the value of the property or the assets. And that's got to really tie in also to how our investors are looking at these properties or our owners that we fee manage for. It's profound that the visibility. I have a question about this. So the fact that it's visible, right, to the VP of maintenance or perhaps right down the line, do investors have visibility into this as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, that's up to the customer. In any good BI platform, and REBA BI is no different, you bring in what technically we refer to it as row level security. But basically what that means is any dashboard, any data element, anything can be set up so that, Suzanne can get access to this, but Donald can't, or vice versa. Certainly for a fee manager who's managing for multiple clients, right? My regionals can see their whole portfolio, but, CalPERS can only see theirs. And, the Wisconsin Board of Ed can, or education pension fund can only see theirs. So yeah, it becomes up to the customer who and what they allow access to. I personally am a huge fan of what I refer to, or I've heard others refer to as democratizing the data. So to me, one of the real powers of a good BI platform is don't just hoard the data in the corporate suite, right? Get the data out there, because people trying to do their jobs will come up with creative ways to use the data, to use the visualization that you might not otherwise ever have thought of. I'll give you one good example. One of our early customers, I won't name them because I'm not sure if they want to be named, but I knew the head of marketing, and I very proudly shared with her one of our earliest dashboards was, we affectionately referred to it as the marketing hit list, right? It had 5 metrics. You could set thresholds. The user could set thresholds, and then it would show you, from high to low, the properties with the most misses on those key metrics. So as a marketing person, I could wake up in the morning, fire up my computer, grab a cup of coffee. Ooh, these are the 3 properties I need to go help right now. Okay. And, that's the way we designed it. So about a month later, I asked her how things were going, and she told me that was one of her favorite dashboards. But what she told me was she didn't use it the way we intended. Her boss had been pounding on her for over a year on driving down marketing per unit costs. So she flipped the script. She went to the bottom of the list to find the ones that were all hitting their numbers, and then compared it to her, ILS special package spend and Google, AdWords spend, et cetera. And so she cut like 10% out of the marketing budget by being, quickly more aligned. And every day, every week, every month, she could go look and see who needed help, who didn't. But as a perfect example of democratizing the data, right? I had a hit list in mind. She used the bottom end of the chart. I never anticipated it being used that way. I feel kind of stupid that I didn't, because it's kind of obvious now, right? But she had a different problem to solve. And because the data was out there for her to use it however she wanted to, she figured out how to use it to solve her problem, not my problem.
Brilliant. I love this. And our audience is going to appreciate that little nugget, because that also gave them a really good idea about how to look at their data. So
I want to look at
really, really cool. I have a question about AI and how that's coming into the conversation. How is that, being talked about within your realm?
Yeah, we've spent the last 2 years studying AI very, very carefully. And I will tell you, we have a point of view paper up on our website. Not surprising for people who know me, and know, my partner, Chris Brust, who's our chief product officer, co-founder. We've kind of made our career sometimes on contrarian opinions. So I'm not contrarian in the sense that I'm anti-AI. What we are is very much right tool for the right problem. Right.
Yeah.
I was at a conference, I was OpTech 2 years ago, and somebody asked the AI panel how they thought things would work with some of the smaller data sets we have. And the SVP of a very large tech vendor, I won't name them because I'm not out to embarrass anybody individually, but he gave about a 3-minute word salad answer that said nothing, but he was trying to act like AI can solve everything. And I've always asked myself, like, why do people act like AI is going to solve everything, right? If a carpenter wants to use a chisel to screw in a screw instead of a flathead screwdriver, he or she can do it. But if it slips and cuts them, are they really going to blame the chisel? Like, you use the wrong tool for the problem, okay? And to get a little bit technical or mathy, if you have really, really small data sets, you should use Bayesian statistics. If you have decent sized, like what we typically do with pricing models, you should be using classic statistical models, regressions, cluster analysis, et cetera. AI machine learning on predictive analytics only works with really, really, really large data sets, like terabytes and petabytes. And in our industry, we're megabytes and gigabytes. So it can spit out an answer, but you have no way of knowing whether it's a hallucination or not. And at least classical statistical processes can give you a measure of goodness, right? Here's what we think the answer is, and here's how confident we are in it. Machine learning just gives you an answer, and you're supposed to trust it. So I'm pretty cynical and pretty circumspect on AI for predictive analytics, for analyzing numbers in most situations in our industry. There are some exceptions, not really worth getting into here in the interest of time. That said, on the generative AI side, I think there's a lot of opportunity for AI to parse the data and get rid of a lot of our rote activities. So if I'm a regional manager for a fee manager, like, why don't I let AI draft my monthly report and I'll edit it? I'll spend 10 minutes editing it instead of an hour and a half writing it, right? That's pretty powerful. Alerting could be AI driven to find the anomalies and point stuff out. So those kinds of interface activities. I also know, a lot of operators, they learn how to navigate BI dashboards, but it's not their natural language. So could I interact instead of my having to navigate to find the data I need? Could I, in English, ask the computer a question and have it give me the answer? So I think there's a lot of power in that. And especially, we're built on top of the Microsoft stack. We're midway through a complete lift and shift into the world of Fabric. For those of you who are IT out there, that's where Microsoft is going. There's some amazing AI capabilities that are coming along with Fabric. And so 2025 and 2026, we're going to be all in on that. But it's more the interaction and the creation. The hard analytics, our industry, in most cases, we don't have enough data to do that right, in my opinion.
I love that you shared that, because I think it's, it's something that, well, everybody's talking about it and how to really utilize it. I work with a couple of clients where, they're considering building their own, AI machines. And, that's like a big thing of,
Yeah.
how to control their own data. And the first thing that, people are looking at is, their own tech stacks and the complexities of where the information is coming from. And the fact that, it is very, very siloed, like we talked about earlier. It's just a very
Yeah.
complex problem.
Well, and it's very garbage in, garbage out. I mean, the data cleansing that has to happen for the AI to even get good results out of it. And again, the challenge with AI is if you point it at unclean data, it's still going to give you an answer. It's not going to tell you, I don't trust this answer, right? I mean, this is a bit, my brain works in weird ways of pattern matching, but it just made me think of, like, just last week, or maybe it was a month ago, because I think it was right at the end of the Biden administration, the CIA suddenly announced that the Havana syndrome, right? They now are saying it's more likely than not that it was caused by a foreign adversary. But the caveat was with a very low level of confidence, right? So at least they, we think this, but we admit we don't have a clue. AI isn't going to do that. It's just going to confidently spit out an answer. And so, it really is buyer beware in that world. And I'm sort of amused at companies building their own AI. I mean, we're operating and operating in asset management companies. We're not software companies. My God, if we're not software companies, we're sure as heck not AI data science companies. And so, I do believe that the buy versus build decision is one of the most important things that an executive can do in their daily work.
Yeah. Oh, and again, great feedback. I think some of this is just shiny penny syndrome too. It's like whiplash to, and really, what's the one thing that, people are trying to make important decisions on, and what information, to your point, are they looking at to make those critical decisions? What about how, if you don't mind, talking a little bit about budget constraints and just how that's really impacting, companies to make the decision to go with this, and looking at their data in this way?
I was very nervous a year ago that as some inevitable slowdown was going to come, that people would really seize up and stop spending money on any technology. I got to say, I mean, after 25 years in this industry, I think this last year has been my proudest moment on behalf of the industry. where, absolutely, I know vendors who are really struggling to sell because anything that is tertiary or even secondary with rents relatively flat year over year, COOs and CIOs and CTOs are naturally being pretty circumspect about what they're going to invest in or not. So, I think there's been a cutback on some of the MarTech, maybe some of even the reputation management and other things that I'm not saying they're not important, but they're secondary, they're tertiary. What I have not seen is anybody cutting back on key investments on key technologies. So I think, another area, we were talking about AI a moment ago, another area unrelated to REBA, but a place where AI clearly works is the conversational AI, right? The chatbots and the ways to take more and more on and either free humans to do higher order things, or frankly, as several companies like Apple and Bay have done, crack the ancient 1 for 100 staffing barrier, right? So I have seen people continue to invest in that kind of AI. I've seen people continue to invest in business intelligence, budgeting tools, pricing, revenue management, the predictive analytics kinds of things, because these are technologies that have clear and compelling IRR, clear and compelling ROI. And so I think 10 years ago, if we had a situation like we had in 2024, you'd have seen just a freeze on tech spending, full stop. And I think the industry, as it's matured, has become a bit more nuanced on that. So I'm really proud to see that happen. And there's a lot of distinctions being made about where to spend the money, but I have not really seen any examples of just a flat out moratorium on tech spend. And that warms me cockles, as my good friend Rich Hughes might say.
Well, and you talking about it with such confidence, I know makes a lot of us feel better as well, you being an expert and really sharing that. So thank you. Where do you think we're going to be evolving with technology in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'm hopeful that this concept of connected analytics catches on, and people, and by people I really mean COOs, CEOs, CTOs, chief information officers, think about the platform they want to create. The old Wayne Gretzky, go where the puck is going to be. One of the biggest complaints, you mentioned something earlier, the biggest complaint I hear from CTOs and COOs all the time is this rat's nest of a tech stack. And I used to be really sympathetic to that because there wasn't a good solution. And in the last year, I've actually gotten a little snarky about it. And I've even said to a couple of CIOs that were complaining about it, well, you have exactly what you wanted to buy. And they're looking at me like, what do you mean? I don't want this. How can I possibly want this? Well, let's examine your decision-making process, right? How do you go about deciding to buy tech? There's some stimulus, some itch, right? The COO decides they want BI, or a regional is hearing something about conversational AI and somehow, gets the ball rolling or whatever. So there's some stimulus with an itch. And then what do? You go into a quick source selection around the point solutions and you pick what you think is the best point solution for that space. And then the next itch comes. And well, if you keep scratching itches with point solutions, what are you going to get other than a disconnected, Frankenmonster of a tech stack? So yeah, you're actually getting exactly what you air quotes want, because that's how you set up your system. What I'm hoping happens in the next 3, even shorter than 3 years, but certainly in the next 1 to 3 years, is that people start really asking the question, okay, as I investigate and decide what to buy for this problem, what does that mean for the rest of my platform? And I actually blogged on this a few months ago. If I were a CIO today, I would think in terms of what is my customer-facing platform, so my marketing and leasing and communication platform, and then what is my analytics platform, my internal data, predictive analytics, et cetera. There are some PMSs that have solutions for all. Obviously, as someone focused on one area, we believe that the PMSs can't possibly be best in class in all of that. But that's an option. I mean, if somebody is willing to give up a little bit of quality in certain modules in order to have, I want just one platform, full stop. It's an option. I think that there's enough of a difference in the customer-facing world and the internal data-facing world that I would probably argue the best practice would be to decide what do I want each of those platforms to be, and then just make sure they talk to each other. And so the amount of energy at REBA we put in to the ETLs, the middleware that pulls data from a system of record, transforms it, loads it into the data platform, right? That's like our secret sauce. That's really critical so that our data platform can connect with the customer facing platform and vice versa. But, back to your original question, I'm cautiously optimistic that 3 years from now, most CIOs and COOs will be making their decisions not just on the individual point solution, but what kind of platform that can be or that can create for you.
Yeah, I just attended a workshop that talked about applying technology first and just the utter mess that can create when you haven't looked at people process and really where the pain points are. And then the integration, this connected analytically way of looking at your tech stack.
Yeah.
And it was an eye opener for me as an old operator, thinking about, just solving the problem at hand, the immediate fire that was burning.
Yeah.
And knowing that, the solution that I had in place for the infrastructure, and I know a lot of people feel the same way, to your point, can't satisfy all the areas of the business at once. So you begin to apply, who's the best in class out there and now you're stacking, and it can be a total mess. It can be a disaster.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I'm glad we talked.
Yeah. Well, people, one of the things that, the urgency of the moment always gets overemphasized, right? Every executive in the C-suite has experienced situations where they put up with pain for a certain amount of time and eventually got worked out. Heck, anybody who's ever used Microsoft, they're famous for, their first version sucks. And then it gets better and better. And by version 3, 4, 5, all of a sudden it's a best-in-class standard. And, for those who lived through that, the first year was rough, but it paid off later on because they went where the puck was going to be, right? Don't swim against Microsoft in that world. Or don't swim against Amazon in that kind of world. So I'm always a little bit amused when people get overly attached to, well, I would buy this particular product, but it doesn't do this one thing. Well, is it on the road? Yeah, it's on the roadmap, but that's not going to be for at least a year. Like, I always try to use in my head the 5-year rule. Like, anytime I'm faced with an urgent decision or something that's bugging me at the moment, I ask myself, well, 5 years from now, will it matter? Looking back, whether or not I waited or I did, or which choice I made. And that razor has served me very well, because there are situations I'm going, you know what? I'm going to have 3 months of pain. 5 years from now, I'm not even going to remember it.
Yeah.
In other situations, it's, oh no, I could have carnage on the highway. In which case, 5 years from now, I'm still going to be feeling the pain of whatever limb I lost through that. And so, I really do encourage tech decision makers, pick vendors that are going to be in it for the long haul, who've shown a history like Microsoft of constantly getting better, better, better. And don't get so hung up on exactly what it is today. Project a little bit, right? Back to the Wayne Gretzky famous quote, like, project where the puck's going to be, not just where it is today. And I think that's going to serve the industry well.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, I'd like to be able to get some nuggets out there for our operators. If they're looking to really streamline their information, looking for a solution like yours, what kind of steps do they need to take to really start that whole process? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, I think so. I'll start backwards. I see among our customer base, right, and we have about 70 customers now, and we've been in the market about 3.5 years. The company's just over 5 years old, but the first 20 months was building the initial product. So, not even 4 full years in the market yet. But what we've seen is especially on the data side, we've seen kind of 3 different archetypes of customer. There are the customers with very sophisticated data science teams. They've invested in 1, 2, even 3 or 4 people who, they're not just Excel jocks. They can use Power BI or Tableau or whatever. They can create visualizations. They can process data, et cetera. At the other extreme are companies that, look, we're just operators or we're just asset managers. Like I want an easy button. I want a set of reports and dashboards that are going to work for me. We're not going to do a lot of customization. And then, there's a lot in the middle where maybe they have an analyst who can help a little or whatever. So my first piece of advice is decide which are you and which do you want to be. Because if you want to be the first, you've got to be ready to invest in it and understand what that's going to cost. If you want to be the second, you have to accept that, well, maybe everything won't be exactly the way I wanted it configured, but I don't have the cost and hassle of managing all that, right? And if you want to be in the middle, then you still have to understand, well, like, do I have somebody who can do that today? Or do I need to go recruit and hire? So where we find the most angst among customers is where, it's the old, everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die, right? I want to lose weight, but I don't really want to stop eating or start exercising. Like, you got to be honest with yourself. If you want a certain capability, are you ready to hire, pay, and train for that? And if not, that's okay, but then don't expect too much in terms of customization. So once you decide where you want to be and what you're really willing to invest in, then go look at the options that are out there. Look at what the property management systems offer, because they all have something. Look at what a platform like REBA offers, and then look at any of the point solutions that are out there as well. I won't do them the favor of naming them here, but they're not hard to find. Okay, and really be serious about how are you going to make the decision. What are the criteria that matter the most? Do you care about where things are going to be 3 to 5 years from now? Or is there an immediate itch that absolutely has to be scratched or else? And just be very honest and very disciplined about it. I have the benefit, my first job, if you'll call it that, I paid for college with an Air Force ROTC scholarship. So I was a project manager in the Air Force for 3.5 years. One of the wonderful things about that is the Air Force has very, very sophisticated and very, very well established source selection procedures. And I got taught 6 ways till Sunday how to do a source selection. And not meaning to be too pejorative to the industry, I haven't met too many people in our industry who know how to do a source selection. And I think that, my best advice, back to your original question, where to start, who am I? Who do I want to be? If they're not aligned, am I willing to make that journey? If not, get my act together on what I really am going to be. And then based on that, what are the 5 to 10 things that I care the most about? Articulate that to the vendor set. And, you'll get answers back to make it pretty clear who can meet that and who can't. And run a disciplined source selection. And you'll end up much better than I'm going to make that VP happy or that C-suite person happy because we're buying this thing and I can check that off my list and move on to the next piece of tech I'm going to have to buy. And then you get the rat's nest that we've been talking about.
Rat's nest. I love the connotation. Well, we are running out of time. I know that I could talk to you for hours because this is such fascinating stuff. But yeah, so how can our audience really connect with you and with REBA? Like how can they find out more?
Super easy. Our website, www.getreba, as in the action of getting who we are or getting what we offer. It's also because REBA.com was taken. And I don't think she's going to sell us her website. I'm on LinkedIn, just look up Donald Davidoff on LinkedIn. If you want to email me, it's first initial, last name. So ddavidoff@getreba.com. We'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. You've certainly elevated our multifamily group and audience. It's awesome. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Okay. You've got an instrument in the background. Can you tell us a little personal thing about, is that yours?
No, so I am not a musician. I am, okay, here's something that very few people know, and you will not believe. I'm very much into the music industry. I actually, this is not the thing that's surprising. I actually, back when I was in the travel agency industry in the mid to late 90s, started something called Fan Club Cruises, and I still do that. You can go to the website. We contract with musicians, indie artists, and they promote to their fans, and we go have fun on a cruise together. I've gotten to know a lot of artists through that. My best friend, Dan Navarro, actually wrote Pat Benatar's We Belong. Here's the little known fact. I'm actually in the Iowa State Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I, for many years, have given management advice and support to a alt country folk band out of Des Moines, Iowa called the Nadas. Highly recommend them. When they got inducted into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they named me as their manager, so I got to participate in that. And I'm literally listed there. That guitar you see is actually a signed guitar by Darius Rucker and the band Hootie and the Blowfish. Last summer, I treated my wife to VIP tickets to Hootie and the Blowfish at Fiddler's Green right here in Denver. And one of the items you got for the VIP ticket was a signed guitar by the band with the, here, I'll show you.
Cool.
Yeah, it's basically the graphics of the tour.
Yes.
The summer camp tour. And so we got the Hootie and the Blowfish guitar. And I actually have a Darius Rucker pick because I had second row seats and one of the picks he threw into the audience fell to my feet. And I was able to pick that up and give it to my wife.
I'm not going to say this was the best part of the whole interview, but it was really good. It's a
whole lot more interesting.
Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And and come back again sometime.
Anytime. Love to. Thank you.
Thank you.